How's it going, everyone? My name is Casperanza, and in this video, we are going to be talking about the astrology chart of Bryan Kohberger. So, I've been wanting to do this astrology reading for the longest time. I just did not get around to it, but this is so fascinating. We're going to talk about the astrology of his natal chart, but then we're also going to talk about the astrology of the night when he actually killed people. So, what I love about Kohberger's chart is that he has this crazy stellium in Scorpio. I mean, he's got Sun, Pluto, Jupiter, Mercury, Rahu, and Venus all in Scorpio. And he even looks like a Scorpio too. I mean, he's got like these this intense gaze, this very perceptive gaze, and um, Kohberger, he studied criminology. He got a PhD in criminology, which is such a stereotypical Scorpio thing to do because Scorpios are like the detectives, they're the psychologists, they look hidden beneath everything. So it's so textbook and stereotypical and funny to see this, right? Like, this is exactly what a Scorpio would do. A Scorpio would get a PhD in criminology and become fascinated by this stuff. So, and when I say fascinated, I mean he's got like his sun is at 29 degrees of Scorpio, so there's almost kind of like a mastery with looking beneath things. Um, like, I'm not trying to say like it's good to kill people. It's not. But I imagine like he was really trying to figure out like how do I get away with stuff? What happens behind things? Like, I feel like there was a very real intellectual curiosity behind what he was trying to do, especially with Pluto. I mean, Pluto is at home in Scorpio. Pluto rules over Scorpio in traditional astrology. Jupiter is the planet of wisdom and luck and big thinking. So, like, wherever Jupiter is, it's kind of like your wisdom that you carry with you. And then he has this Mercury conjunct Rahu, which is just, it's crazy because Rahu makes things very obsessive and very intense. Mercury is your mind, your communication. Um, it's how you use information, and I think I remember that Kohberger had some kind of OCD, obsession compulsion, which is very typical of Rahu Mercury, because if Mercury is your mind, Rahu is going to make that really intense and very precise, and you need to have everything ordered. And if it's in Scorpio, you are very detailed when it comes to seeing behind things. And so, again, I'm not trying to glorify him, but it just makes so much sense why he would do this. It's like no wonder he's so why he did it, because this is exactly the kind of personality that would do this. He also has Venus in Scorpio, and Venus in a man's chart tells you a lot about how they relate to women. Venus in general represents relationships, but it also says a lot about how a man relates to women. And if you do some research on him, apparently he gave a lot of bad vibes. He made a lot of women uncomfortable. He even deliberately, I think, marked down the grades of female students. Yeah, so he was like targeting female students, um, which is very interesting because Venus is at its antithesis in Scorpio. Venus does not like to be in Scorpio, right? Venus likes to be in Libra, where everything is fair, diplomatic, and equal. Scorpio is Scorpio is ruled by Mars, which is kind of like the opposite of Venus. And speaking of Mars, Mars is over here at 23 degrees of Leo, making a square to this crazy stellium he has in Scorpio. And it's nuts, right? Because this stellium on its own would be someone who really loves criminology, who is a psychologist, who likes to read people and see to read between the lines. But when you get Mars here, everything is thrown for a loop because this Mars in Leo wants to kind of, it's very proud. It's very, the drive and the will is in a very proud and almost arrogant place. And it's kind of funny. I mean, it's almost like the story of the killings, the Idaho murders. You can see it in the chart because you have this very deep perceptive energy with Scorpio, but this Mars in Leo is arrogant and thinks it has its all figured out and it wants to assert some kind of power or some control. And so it's very interesting because when I was doing a little bit of research on Kohberger, he actually drove back to the crime scene. Um, and there's a lot of reasons why killers do this, but sometimes it's because they want to revisit it, they want to re-experience it. Maybe it's because they missed evidence and they want to get rid of the evidence, or um, but it could also just be a kind of like this Mars and Leo strikes me as someone who thinks he can get away with stuff, because Scorpio is very, very careful. But when you throw Leo into the mix, Leo is like, I want to show how cool I am. I want to show that I can get away with it. I want to be this, I'm the king. I can do whatever I want. And it's again, Mars is anger, violence, aggression, willpower. And so when you make a square to this, especially with this very deadly Scorpio energy that is like literally you look at dead bodies or you're looking at crime scenes, Mars wants to get in there and probably be a part of it when it's making a square. Because like Pluto is transformation and death. But when you get and on its own it's almost symbolic or it's kind of a sign of transition or change. But when Mars comes in here, that's right, that's not just about transformation and change. This is like someone who really wants to make it real and physical. So it's like death, it's violence, it's stabbing, it's getting knives. And I mean, Mars literally means well, not literally, but it symbolizes knives. And at the crime scene, the weapon was a knife that Kohberger used. So I think that's incredibly interesting. And then so let's look at the crime scene because I mean, just by looking at his chart, you can see, oh my gosh, this could be. If you knew Kohberger and then you saw his chart, that would raise a lot of red flags. But here's the day when he committed the murders. And if you look, it's Scorpio season. The Sun, Mercury, and Venus are all conjunct that stellium in Scorpio. Especially Venus is exactly conjunct Jupiter. To him, it probably felt like this is a huge like opportunity. This is a time to break loose. This is a time to really try out like what I've learned in criminology. And it's also making a trine to Neptune and Jupiter, which is kind of interesting. So there's this really strong like Scorpio energy activating his stellium. And then if you also look, Mars is at 24 degrees of Gemini. So it's making a sextile to his Mars in Leo. And it's also making an inconjunct to the stellium in Scorpio. It's also making a square to Neptune and Jupiter in Pisces. So you could tell like this is someone who is really like he really took a risk. Like he felt really strong and bold right now. And what's really crazy is that this took place 2 days after an eclipse. And I think another reason why I'm making this video is because like eclipse season is just so. Eclipse season is crazy, man. It's not something to mess around with. Like astrologers are right. Like when an eclipse happens, a lot of bad stuff can happen, and people are almost always killed or something. Because I mean, like when Charlie Kirk was assassinated, that was an eclipse. The death of an Iranian leader just a month ago, or almost a month ago, that was during an eclipse, and it was Mercury retrograde. Oh my gosh, this Mercury retrograde in Pisces, by the way, was horrible. I'm so glad Mercury is finally direct, but anyway. So yeah, it was 2 days after an eclipse, because if you go not 2 days, but like a few days before, the moon was making a conjunction with Uranus and the North Node. So there was an eclipse here. 2 days later, that's when the murders happened. And what's really crazy is that Kohberger, in his own chart, he has that same eclipse. On November 18th, a few days before he was born around an eclipse. The sun was conjunct the North Node, and then a few days later, that's when he was born. He was born. So it's like the exact same eclipse involving Scorpio and Taurus, which is kind of wild. Like it's so wild. Um, and so anyway, that's it for the astrology of Bryan Kohberger. That was the main stuff. I just think that's just crazy stellium in Scorpio. That Mars, that very proud Mars in Leo, is activating it. It was around eclipse season. Um, so yeah, that's it for this video. I'll see you later.